In Enugu, the attack on Northerners started on the 15th of August. Igbo soldiers led the attack. 15th of August 1966. Igbo soldiers led the attack. About 613 Northerners were killed in the province, while 27 were seriously wounded. A Northern boy, 7 years old, was publicly slaughtered in the street by uniformed soldiers in the presence of another Northerner who was dressed like an Igbo and was thus able to escape detection. In Onitsha province, 30 Northerners were killed and 6 seriously injured. In Owerri too, where Northerners had lived for long and intermarried with the Igbos, they were attacked and killed in cold blood, despite assurances from the Igbo elders. One Northerner who escaped from Owerri was Alhaji Sabo, who was born there, his father having settled there 70 years ago. His father, chief of the Hausa community in Owerri, had been a customary court judge there for 37 years. He was killed at the beginning of the organized attack on Northerners in the presence of the son, who later managed to escape to Kaduna. In September, a very large number of those Northerners who had managed to reach Oboloafo on their way to the north were murdered. This atrocity was witnessed by some foreigners on the Otopo-Onitsha road on their way to western Nigeria, and these eyewitnesses are believed to be one of the sources of information for the foreign broadcast of these atrocities. In Port Harcourt, a house with a large number of Northern women in hiding was attacked. The women were raped and beaten to death. Igbos singing war songs slaughtered every Northerner they could find in the street, and a number of those who were in hiding were killed quietly by their neighbors. During the evacuation, a train driven by an expatriate carrying about 2,000 Northerners from Port Harcourt was stopped at Imo River by Igbo soldiers. Suddenly, Igbos armed with deadly weapons rushed out from the bush and attacked the passengers. Every adult male Northerner on the train was killed and the body thrown into the river, while children and the young women were captured and taken into slavery. The few survivors were eventually admitted into Otopo and Makurdi hospitals. I didn't read that to say Igbos were bad. I'm just trying to tell you that it happened here, it also happened in the other space. So the idea that there was pogrom in the north is true. The numbers have been greatly exaggerated. But another number that has not even been mentioned at all is the numbers of people from the north who were unalived in the east. Why is this important? To make you hate Igbos or something like that? No. This is important because it helps you understand the fact that these guys were humans. That the Igbos were not weaklings just sitting there and just waiting for people to come and unalive them, and they did not retaliate. They were just there, or they were just victims, or they also did something. And for those who are saying, sold into slavery, this is 66. This is 3 years after the governor of the Eastern region told Easterners to start wearing clothes. Ekenzi. 66. People are still being sold into slavery in Libya. 1963 was when Okpara, with the Eastern Parliament, put out the edict that Easterners must wear clothes when coming to the market in Enugu. So to tell you that 3 years later they sold people into slavery and you're saying slavery is to make it seem as though 66 was yesterday. And by the way, if they had to write that edict in 63 to come to the market, it means that people were still walking naked in some parts in 66. Let's be serious. If you mention, when I was talking to you about what happened to the Igbos, nobody had issues with it too. As soon as I start saying what happened to the Northerners, you start writing Kini Kwa. What was Kwa? Any Kwa, I know is Kwa Igbo, and it's a church. The point is that the Northerners were also unalived. Why is this important? Because there's the single narrative in Nigeria's history, especially as it has to do with the civil war, and in fact about everything in Nigeria is only one group that talks. And because it's only one group that speaks, and they speak very loudly, the rest of us just say, hey, yeah, sorry. And meanwhile, the person who you are expecting to say, hey, yeah, was also a victim of that same issue. That's why you have a group of people, leaders, with the boldness to demand of Nigeria 10 trillion naira. My question is, what happened to the other group who also lost their family? Because it's their money that will pay you that reparation. No? The point is not to say that one group is bad. It's just to say that, listen, this person did something terrible. This other person also did it, but we don't talk about what he did because we don't want him to feel bad. Perhaps we are not understanding that we're making the other person also feel bad by not mentioning what he went through. And by the way, we are just on pogroms. We're not going to the war yet. So during the pogroms, Easterners were unalived in the north. People were maimed. One of them I read to you from Alabi Sama's book, where Colonel Abubakar was talking to. And the person Colonel Abubakar was talking to was not an Igbo man. He was from Okpobo. Okpobo is in River State, but was an Easterner. So if you were from the east at the time, regardless of your ethnicity, people assumed that you were Igbos. Just like if you were from the north, people assume you were Aosta, even if you are Angas or Tiv. So the point here is this: at the time, things happened in the north to Easterners and it was terrible. But as also, things happened to the Northerners in the east and it was also terrible. And acknowledging that one does not mean that we are somehow disqualifying the pain of the others. Now let's go to the other part.